Hey everyone, this is Phil, and today I'm here to share some fantastic news with you. Airsoft has been spared from Bill C-21. We've talked about Bill C-21 on this channel numerous times before. It was a bill by the Canadian government that was largely related to firearms, but contained a clause in it related to airsoft that would have made airsoft replicas prohibited devices. Now, as you can imagine, this would have been a very difficult, if not insurmountable, obstacle for the airsoft industry and airsoft community in our country. While currently owned airsoft replicas might have been grandfathered into legality, buying, selling, or otherwise transferring airsoft guns would have become completely illegal. And as you can imagine, this is not something that our sport likely would have survived for very long. As a result, there was a huge movement in the airsoft community and airsoft industry to lobby government and lawmakers to revisit the inclusion of airsoft into this bill. Airsoft in Canada, or ASIC, was organized as a national campaign to encourage airsofters to write members of parliament as well as the Minister of Public Safety, and once the bill reached the committee stage, to get airsofters to submit their own briefs to the committee as evidence for consideration. Late last year, members of the airsoft industry and community testified at the committee, representing airsofters from all around the country, to showcase not just our disagreement with being included in the bill, but also that we as an airsoft community and an industry are absolutely open to common sense regulation. In fact, many of you might know that Canadian Airsoft has long self-regulated our private replica sales to only people 18 years or older, which has helped keep our community more mature and responsible for decades. Earlier this week, one of the committee members from the New Democratic Party proposed an amendment to the bill to remove all references to airsoft that would prohibit our sport. This was discussed by the committee, and some other members also expressed that they were happy to support it as they were preparing to propose the same amendment. In the end, all committee members either voted in favor of the amendment to remove airsoft or abstained. No one was opposed to it. It is precisely because we approached this challenge as a community and came to our government and lawmakers with solutions and a desire to work with them to achieve both our goals that we were able to secure this victory for our sport. The members of the community specifically recognized how the airsoft industry and community was easy to work with, reasonable, and solution-oriented. That is exactly how democracy and the democratic process is supposed to work in our country. We've never discussed political views on this channel, nor discussed politics in general, really, and we're not going to start today, but it's critical to remember that the reason airsoft was saved in our country and in some other countries going down similar paths in the past was because our airsoft community was willing to stand up for its own interests and engage with lawmakers of all stripes to try and effect change. I've read so many comments from cynical people who are saying things like the only reason this happened was because the government is trying to backtrack, or because they were embarrassed, or that this is just democracy for now, and all kinds of other stuff. And not only is this complete garbage, it minimizes and trivializes all the hard work and dedication of our community over the last 2 years. Guys like Rob here in St. John's, who sat down in person with members of parliament to discuss how his airsoft business would be impacted by the bill. People like Brian and Zimming, who took time out of their day to testify at the committee. And players like myself, like Pat, like Stefan, and hundreds more who wrote emails, letters, and briefs. The truth is that this happened because members of the airsoft community stood up for themselves and worked their asses off to make sure lawmakers were aware of the negative impact this bill would have on our community, our sport, and the multi-million-dollar industry that is airsoft in Canada. So if you want to be cynical and jaded, fill your boots, but the rest of us are going to enjoy the fruits of our labors and celebrate this victory. Now, with all that said, this is really only the beginning of a conversation about airsoft regulation in Canada. The committee members agreed to this amendment because it was clear the government and the airsoft industry and community were open to regulation instead of prohibition. So now work needs to be done to figure out what that looks like. Some things that were mentioned in particular was a registration system like they have in the United Kingdom, but what things will look like in Canada specifically are still very much up in the air because this is still very early days. But for right now, airsofters in Canada no longer have anything to fear from Bill C-21, and we can all breathe a collective sigh of relief. Thank you so much for watching.